Hi there, it's November 21st and we continue our progress through the prophecies of Ezekiel, in Hebrew Ezekiel, meaning the Lord will strengthen, and we're in chapters 42 and 43. In chapter 42, the angelic being who Ezekiel has been following, who is measuring the whole of this new visionary rebuilding of the temple that Ezekiel sees, takes him to the buildings which are for the use of the priests. And the buildings are arcaded on 3 stories, and they are set back from the temple itself. And these buildings are for the use of, as I say, of the priests for 3 purposes. They are dining rooms, places to eat the part of the sacrifice which belongs to the priests. They are places to store offerings which can't be used immediately. And thirdly, they're places to leave behind the vestments, like vestries, to leave behind the vestments that the priests are wearing in terms of their service in the holy place, but they're not allowed to be taken out of that place because they would be contaminated by being in contact beyond the holy place, and so they leave them behind here in this court. And then they go out. The angelic being and Ezekiel is taken by him out of the gate to the east, and they go around and measure the whole area of the temple. So they're going out of the outer court, and the whole area of the temple Ezekiel sees is 500 cubits, which is equivalent to 283 yards or 260 meters. So it's a considerable area that is being enclosed in this new temple area. And then in chapter 43, Ezekiel has the vision of the glory of God, the weight of God, this Hebrew word kavod, that means weighty, gravity. And he sees the glory of God rather like he's seen at the beginning, he's encountered at the beginning of his prophecies, this time coming to this new temple, coming by the eastern gate, which was the way in to the temple, and the glory of God comes in, and he hears the sound of a voice as of a voice of many waters. The earth shines with his presence. Ezekiel falls on his face before the Lord, and the Spirit then lifts him up, and he sees that the glory of God is filling the house. The presence of God, the Shekinah, the face of God, the shining presence of God is filling the place. And God lays down that because he's come back to this place, he will not tolerate any further profanity. There won't be any further profanity. There won't be any further desecration of this place by his people. And the Lord instructs Ezekiel to go and tell his people, to go and tell Israel that this is what he wants. He wants this place to be completely set apart, to be completely holy. And it's being built on the Mount Zion, as a place that will stand out, as a place that will be seen, because this is going to be the place where God dwells. And then in verse 13 of chapter 43, there's a description of the altar of burnt offering, which is in the before the temple. It stands before the temple. It has steps up to it. It has various levels. On the top level is a hearth so that ashes fall through, and there are horns on the altar, rather like the altar had been in the old temple. And this is for the offering at the altar is going to be done by the sons of Zadok. We mentioned this before, that the sons of Zadok, that is the Davidic priesthood, the priesthood that was operating in the time of David and Solomon. And so their descendants are going to be the ones who are going to serve at this altar, and they will consecrate it by covering it in blood from sacrifices. That's a sign of covenant being made. But also they will offer 7 days of sacrifices each day for the purification and for the consecration of this altar. And at the end of that time, they can offer on it both the burnt offerings, which are the complete offerings to be offered up to the Lord, and the shared offerings, or the fellowship offerings, which are offerings, the fat of which are offered on the altar and the blood of which are offered on the altar, but the meat of which the people can eat. And so the most important part we see in this particular reading, in this particular passage, is the glory of God is coming back to the temple. Significantly, in the temple that was built after the return of the exiles, the time of Ezra and Nehemiah, it isn't recorded that the presence of God, that the glory of God came and filled that temple, nor in the time of Herod. Herod's temple in the time of Jesus. We don't actually hear again of God's presence coming, as it were, in that glory that Ezekiel sees. There's a sense in which God's glory is no longer to be found just in a house. It's actually to be found in a people, that people led by a person who described himself as the temple who would be demolished and raised again in 3 days. That's Jesus. And so we are very much in the followers of Jesus. We're described as the living temple, and therefore God's presence comes, God's glory comes, God's full weight comes and dwells in his people, and we are the mobile evidence of his glory today. So let's go and be his glory in the earth. Let's be seen as those who bear the glory of God upon us wherever we go today. Have a very good November 21st.